Brothers and sisters, our Sword of the Spirit devotional journey readings these days is from the letter of Hebrews. I hope you've been following along. It's a wonderful letter that encourages us as a church and helps to form us as a church. So if you haven't, start today. And so we read Hebrews 1, 2, and 3 so far. And the issue in Hebrews was that the church was tempted to drift away from following Christ back into the old paradigm of the Mosaic law. And the writer of Hebrews is trying to encourage them not to drift away into apostasy and ultimately into condemnation. And he gives us some helps along the way to keep us from drifting away. And so chapter 2, verse 1 says, "Therefore we must pay much closer attention to what we have heard." Now, what we have heard, of course, is the gospel. Much closer attention. That doesn't mean just, read the Bible 5 minutes every few days. It doesn't mean come to church and maybe listen to a sermon, sort of. It means you're so focused on this, you're paying close attention as much as you can. Become obsessed with the gospel, because that's what will change your life. And so we must pay much closer attention. Then he says, lest we drift away from it. Drifting is a nautical term he's using here. It has the image of a ship with no wind, and it's no anchor, and it's just drifting. And we can drift away ultimately into apostasy and condemnation. And then chapter 3, verse 1, he says that we keep from this drifting. He says, you holy brothers and sisters, you who share in a heavenly calling, consider Jesus, the author, apostle, and high priest of our confession. That's similar to the idea of saying pay attention to what you have heard. So we need to consider Jesus, who he is, God become man, what he did. He died for us. He rose from the dead, and his presence with us every day. Consider the sufferings he did on our behalf. So we consider Jesus every day. That will encourage us and enable us to live and hold our confidence, as he says in verse 6, and our boasting in hope fast. But then there's one other thing I wanted to mention, and that's verse 12 and 13. And there he says, take care, brothers and sisters, lest there be in any of you an evil, unbelieving heart, leading you to fall away from the living God. So that's the problem, right? There's a tendency in all of us, to fall away from Christ and the gospel. The allure of sin and temptation in our world and the struggles of life can quench the gospel in our lives. But then he gives the antidote to that in verse 13. He says, but exhort one another once in a while. Oh, no. Let me look at it again. No, it doesn't say that. It says, all right, it says, but exhort one another every Sunday at 11 a.m. No, it doesn't say that too. But exhort one another every day. How's that even possible? Well, there's lots of ways to exhort one another. I mean, we can text one another. It's not the best, but it works. Text one another, email one another. We can call on the phone. We can do a Zoom chat. We can meet together as it's appropriate in our day. And so we exhort. And the word exhort means to encourage. It means to, it may mean rebuke sometimes. It can mean comfort, come alongside, and we all need it every day, not just once in a while. We need to encourage one another every day of our lives. Now, who are we to exhort? Well, it says one another, right? It says one another. And who are those one another's? Well, you can make a list. I made a list, and I think the order of the list might be important. First thing I put on my list is family. So that would be Patty and I, right? Exhorting one another, encouraging one another, as long as we're able to. It would mean my family in other states, so I could call and email and text and do a FaceTime with, those kinds of things. My second thing on my list after family was my smaller community in the church. And we meet together in our smaller community once a week, every week. We do it on Zoom right now. But we are to encourage one another, but not just on Wednesdays, every day. And I've not been very good at that, so I got to rethink what I'm doing about exhorting and encouraging our smaller communities. And then up from that is the level of the church as a whole. There's more people there. It's more complicated to, more people to choose from. You can't exhort everybody every day. But as we have opportunity, we exhort others in the church. And then beyond that, there are other people that I know in our denomination and people that I know and love, care for, that I can exhort one another. And so if we are not to drift away, and brothers and sisters, it is so easy in this day to just drift. So this morning I met with our 7 a.m. prayer gathering, which is usually a wonderful time. But I have to tell you, that I was kind of down this morning. It may be because I didn't get enough sleep last night. That's certainly physical, certainly a part. But I was kind of discouraged, and we were praying out of Hebrews 3 this morning, and we prayed encouragement into each other's lives. And after that prayer gathering, I was encouraged and ready to face the day. So how will you exhort one another today?